100 episodes. Finally got there. Employer content marketing podcast. 3 years and still going. So let's go. We're going to talk about how I got there. So I come to Shoreditch about, say, once a week, and to come to places like this place, which is a workspace I've got membership to. It's great to be able to do that because I can get away from the office. I can come into a quite, really creative part of London with clients as well, so that's great. And also, we're going to go to a studio that I'm a member to as well. And that means that when I come into London, it's often because I'm doing a shoot, and often about the podcast as well. So it's really good. Let's go. But we're going to go to, here we go. This is one of the studios. Right. Yeah, so this is Studio Dream Factory, one of their studios, and it's just a few minutes from Old Street. And yeah, it's great to be able to come down here. They got a studio up here, also down in the basement, and I've used this often for when I'm doing my podcast episodes. So yeah, it's good. And also venue hire as well. So if everyone wants to do events, then they give that to me as well. So yeah, it's a nice space, really is. This used to be a coffee shop as well. Good coffee. Check this out. This is the basement. Yeah. So you've got a really good setup here. You've got 2 sofas there at the moment, and they've got green screens sorted out there as well. Yeah, armchairs and sofas. It's a really good space just to sit down and have a good chat. It's really nice. And they got a pub just across the road, which is a bit of a bonus. And actually, there's another studio just down the way, which is great. Bit of a famous residence there before, so it's quite cool going there. So you guys have probably heard about them before. Dr. Dre, Beats have been there. Used to have that space, the studio space, for a few years, and Gucci have been there as well. So again, it kind of adds to this thing about just this part of London being a super cool place to be in, like very heavy on the creative vibes. It's really nice to be part of that, definitely. Yeah, to think it used to come into London like at least 5 times a day, before COVID, and so it's really nice actually not to have to do that every single day, and like be quite intentional with going into London. I think it's great, come in with the intention of having a meeting, or come in with the intention of shooting something. It's great, We all felt like we were kind of, everyone was going into work for the sake of it, so I really like the way it is now, definitely. That's a good question. I think things like, typically what brands would do is, they would say, right, we need to get the brand in there within the first few seconds because, that's attention spans are short. But if you have, like, I've seen it where you've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 20 seconds worth of branding up front, and you really expect people to stay around for that long. They're not, especially on YouTube, especially on social, is that they've gone somewhere else. So I think to really optimize for YouTube, and I'm still learning, YouTube is a very competitive space to be in, but is making sure that you've got those hooks in there right from the very beginning. And actually going, if your thumbnail on YouTube has said your content's about this and someone's clicked on it, you've got to deliver on that promise within the first few seconds, otherwise it's just not going to work. But also, it's one of the reasons we're in Shoreditch is there's so many kind of visually appealing elements to Shoreditch that, the visual nature of obviously what we're producing is hopefully going to capture people's attention as well, because it's London, it's East London, it's Shoreditch. It's a pretty cool space, really. We're talking about shooting on iPhones. What I love about it is, we talked about, it's super lightweight. The mics are really good. So you might hear a bit of wind and stuff, but because of that agility of something like an iPhone, along with the quality with it, you get these little noises of London. I love it. You've got people from all over the world in London, and you just get those little snippets of London in the audio. It's great, and you wouldn't necessarily get that if you got like loads of kit set up, because people tend to steer clear of that, don't they?
Yeah, it'd be more less wind noise and less rawness to it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a good question. Why the podcast? Well, employer content marketing podcast. I set it up because But like really, I think it's employer branding. I think it's kind of reaching this like third phase. It came about. Simon Barrow created the concept in the late 80s, early 90s. Last decade, you started to see job roles with employer branding in it, and there's teams with employer branding in it. And the role of content marketing, which is ultimately creating content that actually helps the people you're wanting to turn into candidates and into employees, is like really, really powerful. That's not just saying come and work for us and selling the organization and selling the job. It's what content can we create? This is our knowledge and expertise and the opinion of our people to actually, help the people that you want to maybe join you in the future. I think that's one of the key things, is that trying to making sure the kit doesn't get in the way. Mm-hmm. We've got access to great things like this, and technology we have in our hands is fantastic, and if you can let it step out of the way and just start talking. We've put together a shot list for this, and you need to make sure there's some sort of flow to things, but ultimately just start talking. I think that's always a big kind of takeaway that I have with people when I talk to them is what advice would you give? And it's like, just start having conversations with people and capturing content. And that's one of the reasons. In fact, let's carry on. That's actually how I got started with the podcast. Was I literally got on my phone. I was like, right, I'm just going to start. I'm going to do the trailer. I'm going to do it upstairs in the bedroom, and I'm going to just record myself. Now, I must have done it about 30, 40 times. But it was just wanted to start. You can get the podcast mics, you can get all the kit, you can get the cameras, but that's a barrier to actually getting started. And I think often that kind of stuff that's like perfectionism getting in the way of progress. So literally wanted to reduce those barriers. So it was like, use the phone to capture episodes as much as I can. Just jump on Zoom. Quality's not quite right, but actually it meant that it was easy to sort out guest episodes. And actually I'm at the moment finding it difficult to sort out an episode to do something in person. So actually it's good to do remote episodes as well. The quality is not so good, but it means you can have the conversation with people. So reducing those, like the barriers to entry, I think is really, really, really important. And that's definitely what has kind of kept me going and getting me closer to that 100 episodes mark. Another reason is I think being able to go to studios, and actually we're just about to go to one here. We're getting at the second studio at Dream Factory, where when you can get to go to a place like this, it really does make you think about how you capture your content, and really does like elevate. I don't want to say level up, it's a bit too Boris, but it really does help you up your game when it comes to the content you're creating. Let's go and have a look, see if we can get in. So I did email them earlier on, but I should have emailed them a bit earlier. But Josh, it looks like they're not in, or most likely I think they're filming. So I'll tell you what, let's just drop in some stuff from one of the episodes in here. The guys will get a feel for it if they've not seen any of the episodes in the studio before. But it's great. Beach used to be here, so did Gucci, and look, I mean, it's a great space. It really is. You can't miss it as well. You're not going to get lost.
Isn't it hard running a business and a podcast at the same time?
Well, look, sometimes it does often look like it's a full-time job. Sometimes it feels like a full-time job, but I think for me it's something that's it's a kind of a bit of a labor of love, really. My parents had their own advertising agency, and they actually did content marketing before I even knew it was a thing. For me, I started seeing content marketing in like the early teens, last decade. So I think having that passion for it really makes a difference. Because if you're not doing it in a way for yourself, then you're just not going to do it. There's this crazy stat. In fact, I'm going to get the stat out here now, actually. Is that 90% of podcasts don't get past episode 3. So that's like, okay, that's 1.8 million podcasts that quit. That's just craziness. I mean, these numbers seem fake, but they're definitely true. And then of those 200,000 podcasts left, 90% will quit after 20 episodes. So that's like another 180,000 podcasts gone. And then to be in the top 1% of podcasts in the world, you need to have published 21 episodes. So I think for me, a takeaway from that is, I think a seriously underrated like skill in marketing, but also in business is just stamina and just turning up all the time and just keep going. And I think so long as you got that kind of, I think, passion there to help drive you as well, and that willingness just to turn up all the time, I think that's really important. I think people often get like sideswiped by, or kind of people often get distracted by big numbers, and they think, oh well, I even had it myself, you post something and of course you're very connected to that content because you've created it, and if you don't get people reacting to it, engaging with it, you're a bit like, oh my goodness, but actually you've got to ignore that, because you've got to do it to feed the algorithm, so the algorithm knows that you as an entity is a contributing content, and then you learn from it as well. So I think that thing about turning up all the time is something that not only individual marketeers and people can learn from a personal branding perspective, but brands need to do that. And YouTubers are a fantastic example of that, where they post regularly on YouTube and they're constantly learning from what they're doing and then constantly adapting their content to serve the audience that they're producing the content for ultimately. The other thing, doing this along with doing client work and also running a business is having a system in place. It's making sure that you have a good pipeline of episodes coming up, which means you've got to be very clear about what you wanted to get from your podcast and the direction of the podcast, and then you have a system in place that enables you to create content in batches, and then serializing that content, I think, is really important, because then you do get a good volume of content, as well as hopefully most of the time quality content as well. So often make it look like it's a full-time job, but I think having that process in place is really, really helpful. And also, I'm getting to the stage now where, look, I moved on to YouTube last year, and it's, YouTube isn't easy, but it's I think I'm up to like 260 videos on there, and I wouldn't have been able to have got to that number if it wasn't for the process I had in place. And it's also that number, again, going back to what I said earlier, that number really helps me learn what works and what doesn't. And I'm experimenting myself and figuring out what I like to do. So yeah, that volume I think is underrated as well. So you've got to create that volume of content to make sure that you can learn from it. And also, not everyone is looking at your content all the time as much as you love it. Everyone's busy doing other things, so you need that volume so that people can see it. You can't just publish like a blog post once, or that video production that you spent thousands of pounds on, and thinking publishing it once is the job's done. You've really got to take it. You really got to cut and splice it up into multiple bits of content, reiterate points, and just, even dare I say it, repeat yourself, so that actually just more people see you. I've got some news. Now we've hit 100 episodes, which I'm going to share with you guys later on. And I've got something really exciting that I built today that I want to share with you, and I think it's going to really help people on their kind of employer content journey. All right, Josh, we take a little breather. Bit of a sit down next to this statue. I don't know who it is. Sorry, Bill. So this sign, humanity. That reminds me of something a few days ago on LinkedIn. I posted something. I've seen a lot in employer branding circles in the last 6 to 12 months, where at conferences as well, actually, people talking about human-centric employer branding, human-centric storytelling. I just had to post something because, for goodness sake, if storytelling isn't about humans, then what on earth is it about? And if employer branding isn't about humans, then what on earth is it about? You know,
Bill.
Shakespeare, you know, he's like, ultimately his stories were absolutely centered around, grounded in human experiences, human endeavor, human laughter, etc., etc. So yeah, it makes me chuckle kind of seeing human-centric banded about like we should say that. Really, should we be saying human-centric as a business when it's a shame we have to say that, because if business isn't about humans, I don't know what is. And definitely, yeah, humanity wins for sure, I think. Should we head back to the station, yeah? It's getting a bit cold, isn't it?
Agreed.
Cold? Who am I kidding? It's been cold for the last 2 hours. One of the challenges of having a podcast, Jerry, is that, you know, we've got all these episodes, 100 episodes, I've spoken to like 80, 85 people, which is the number I can't get my head around. That's crazy. But I think the challenge then is that people don't really know enough about yourself and my business. And, you know, yes, I'm producer and host of the podcast, but naturally, because of my background, I've done quite a bit a lot actually in the employer marketing space. So I set up the Employer Content Studio, which is ultimately about content strategy and content production. Did a lot of stuff around, you know, around podcasts. Been lucky enough to actually win quite a few awards around my podcast work with partners and also my video work with partners. And actually, what I'm announcing today is that, a couple of things. One is that the Employer Content Studio is going to become the main sponsor of the podcast. So I'm really excited about that, because I think now that I've got this kind of body of work behind me, and also along with the 100 episodes, is that there's lots that can be shared through my guests, but also through myself. So yeah, the Employer Content Studio is going to be the sponsor. But also, I built something today as well, and I'm going to release it with this episode. Yeah, I created something called the Employer Content Marketing Scorecard. It's really great seeing content marketing being talked about in employer branding circles, but I think we're not there yet when it comes to true content marketing. So off the back of, you know, reaching 100 episodes, and also the business is 4 years down the line, and, you know, doing some really exciting work with clients, but also won awards, you know, I'm keen to build something extra that can help people do more content marketing and do it in the right way. So I built this scorecard, which is, and literally is like a 30-second survey. And that's the honest truth, not one of these surveys that says, oh, it only takes a few minutes to do and it takes you 10 minutes to do. So it's 10 simple questions, yes or no answers, and then from it you get a personalised report on a score on how you're doing with your employer content marketing, but also it gives you some tips based on what score you've got. So actually you've got some nice takeaways which can help you ultimately evolve how you do your employer content marketing, and ultimately enjoy creating content that's going to engage your employees, but also your future candidates as well, and their future colleagues. This is going to be landing with this episode, so click on the link somewhere near here. There's a chance then just to book a call, 30 minutes, and anyone who knows me will know that I love to chat about content marketing. So we can talk about what you're doing at the moment. Is, if anything, a sounding board for you to find out what else you can do with your employer content marketing, and happy to share my thoughts. And then if we can get more people doing content marketing in the employer branding space, then that's good for me for sure. So yeah, really looking forward to dropping it. So get on that form and see what results come back. Well, cheers, Josh. You enjoyed it, man. It's been good spending a bit of time with you. Shoreditch is always a good idea, especially on a Friday. Best head home.